So now we need to look at how we can schedule jobs, and we're going to look at that first of all using the cron daemon. I'm going to begin by working as my root user, so I'm going to gain root privileges. And if I clear out the screen, first of all I'm going to list the etc directory, and I'm just going to go through and run cron and star. Now as we start looking through the files and directories that we can see, one of the first files that stands out right at the top of this output, /etc/cron tab. So this is the system cron file. Normally if the root user wanted to create jobs, he can go through and put it in here. We also have its own extension directory, cron.d, and we saw earlier when we were looking at our monitoring of the system using sysstat that we've got then the sysstat cron job. Then we have directories, and these directories are cron daily, hourly, monthly and weekly directories. Do not contain cron files as such, so they're not in the format of the cron tab file. However, they contain scripts, and these scripts then run once a day, once an hour, once a month, once a week, etc. We'll see later how they are controlled through anacron. Generally though, if we want a script, let's say, to run once a day, we're going to create our own cron job for that to happen. Otherwise we can get a whole load of things that are happening at one time, and it's more difficult to control when it will happen. If I want to create a system cron as the root user, we're just going to add it into the cron tab file, although we could add it into the cron.d directory. So we go vi/etc/cron tab. And we then get a nice layout of what's happening here, and we can see that we've got the shell that we're going to use, the path variable that we're going to use, and the mail to. If there is output from a command, we can mail it through to this user. The structure is laid out quite nicely for us, and if I go down to the bottom of the file, I can just use capital G and then I to insert. We can then see what's happening here. We first of all specify the minute that we want it to run. So I could go through like this, and that would be 10 past the hour. If I put something like this, where we go through 10,40, that would be 10 minutes and 40 minutes past the hour. So start/10, then that would be every 10 minutes. If I just put a star in there, it would be every minute. But let's go through and put it at 30 minutes after the hour. We can then go through and specify the hour that we want it to run. If I did something like this, 8 through to 18, that's going to be 8 o'clock in the morning through to 6 o'clock at night. We can then specify the day of month. So I might say any day of the month, and the next column is a month column, so I'm going to specify any month. Now we can use numbers, or we can use the abbreviation. We can see they've got it annotated for us, but the number does work quite well. But we can leave it as the asterisk for any month. Now we can then continue and start specifying the day of the week, and the day of the week could be 0 through to 7, because actually the value for Sunday could be 0 or 7. If I only want it to happen, let's say on weekdays, I can go 1 through to 5, Monday through to Friday. Again, I can use shortened forms of the name, Sun, Mon, Tu, etc. Now in the system cron, we have to specify who the job will run as. So we're going to specify the user root, and then of course we could go through and specify whatever command we want to run. If I did something like this, where we go through and specify ls and then say /etc, we're going to list the contents of the etc directory. Obviously, if we're looking at running our script, we saw before that we could use df-h. If I don't actually send the output to a file, we can use a feature of cron whereby the mail to user will receive the output. So let's just go through and change this a little bit. Let's just change the time to, let's say, 45. We should then just catch up to be able to run this. So if I just go through and do df-h, then we will get our disk free listing and it will actually be emailed through to root. So we have then the first 5 fields that define then the event when it will occur. Then we have the username, and then we have the task that we want to run. Once we're ready that, we go through and save it. Now, whilst we're waiting for the job to run, let's go through and look at our user crons. So if I exit out, so I'm back as my ordinary user, and if I run the command cron tab and -L, we can see that I don't have a cron tab at the moment. So I can use then cron tab and -E to edit, and then just hit insert. I can set up my own variable, so mail to equals tux, just to make sure that I receive the output. And then we can go through and start creating our job. So we might want to go through and say, maybe every 5 minutes, for every hour, for every day of the month, for every day of the week. So we have those same 5 columns, but we don't work with the extra column specifying the user. It is going to run as me. And let's just go through and run, ls/etc. We'll just list the etc directory. If we want to go through and run our disk free, well, we might want to go through, say, run that at on the hour, at 1500 hours, any day of the month, for any month, but let's say only on a Friday. And then we're going to go through and run the command /home/tux/df.sh. So we're going to run the script then, and that again will email the tux user. Now let's go through and save this. So we can see then that that's now created the job, and when I go back and run my cron tab -L, we can now see, oh look, yes, we've got some entries. I could use cron tab -R to delete the cron file, or also I could delete individual entries myself. If I go through and run the mail command at the moment, we can see, well, this is just the disk free that we were playing around with, but I should get the output of the ls/etc. So we can leave this cooking for a while just to allow that first 5 minutes to run through. Whilst we're waiting for that though, if we jump back through to our root account, so let's quit out of this, and then su-, put in our root user's password. Now if we go through and cat out /etc/cron tab, we can see here that we created our job that's going to run between 8 in the morning at 6 at night, but at 45 minutes past the hour. It's running DF. Now with this we will see the disk free, but it's going to be emailed irrespective of the file because of the mail to variable. The output of a command can then be included in that message. So let's go through, clear out our screen. So running the mail command now, we can see then that we've run the cron job. If I go through and look at this message, so message number 1, so we've got all of the environment variables at the top, but there we can see the output. So it becomes a very easy way that we can get output mailed to us. If we jump back now as our standard user and then look at the mail command, again we can see the output of the cron job for listing etc. So let's go through and run this, and then again there's the output of the etc directory, so utilizing the same thing. If we quit out of this, and then if we go through and run cron tab -R, we remove the cron tab for the tux user. But hopefully that's given you a great insight into cron and how we can schedule jobs. But let's look at when those timed events like the cron daily, cron weekly, etc. are going to occur by looking at anacron.